Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 8 of the Merry Christmas Ornament tutorial. This is the Merry Christmas ornament that we are making. It is so cute and Christmassy. And today we're going to be making the unit called the AS. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 7 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque black, silver lined gold, dyed silver lined red, silver lined green, and opaque yellow AB. Just to keep this simple, I'm going to call this black, gold, red, green, and yellow. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire thread in the color Crystal, and then I use the 4-pound thread. You could also use a 6-pound thread. And then I like to use a size 10 beading needle. You could also use a size 11 or a size 12. For implements, I like to hang on to my thread with long nose pliers at the end of the video, and then I cut the thread with scissors. And then to end the tail in the beginning of the video, I'm going to show you how I use the fire method. We just need to thread our needle with 3 feet of thread, and then we can get started. So I have threaded my needle, and now I'm going to pick up my first 3 beads, which are all 3 black beads. Then I'm going to take those 3 black beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of my thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Now I'm going to make a square knot. So that means I'm going to cross over on top and then pull my tail through. And then I'm going to do that again, cross over on top and pull my tail through. So now we have 2 loops that looks kind of like a little snowman. I'm going to put my 2 fingers inside the bottom loop, the one that has the beads in it. And then I'm going to pull on the tail thread as well as pull on the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot, just like that. Now we have our tail thread. So I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I'm going to get it super close so it melts the tip of the thread. And it turns it into this little teensy knot or bead. Now, keeping my 2 fingers in the loop, I'm going to pull on the long thread while I twist the loop until that little knot on the end of the tail meets the long thread. Now I'm going to take that knot and I'm going to use my thumbnail to pull it down to the beads. Now those 3 beads are set in a little triangle, and that completes row number 1. So let's notice that the knot is kind of in between the 2 beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to tug it to one side so that it looks like the knot is coming out of one of the beads. It also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead. So now let's pick up our next 2 beads, which are 2 black beads. Now it looks like we're coming out of this bead, so I'm going to sew through the bead that it's not coming out of. And I'm going to try to get those new beads to sit right on top of the beads that they're closest to. Just like that. Now let's pick up one gold bead and one black bead. And we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next bead. Once again, trying to make those beads sit right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one black bead and one gold bead. And we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next bead, and we'll also sew through the bead that's right below it. So when we're sewing through two beads, I refer to that as stepping up, because what we're doing is we're putting our thread in position to start the next row. So we've completed row number 2, and we get to start row number 3. Let's start by adding 2 black beads and sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 gold bead. And we're coming out of this black bead right here, the second black bead, and you'll notice the next bead is set downward. We're going to skip that downward bead and we're going to sew through the up bead, the one that's sticking up. I'm going to refer to the sticking up beads as up beads, and that's what we're going to sew through from this point forward. Alrighty, so let's pick up 1 gold bead and 1 black bead and sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 black bead, and you'll notice that we're skipping the down bead and we're going to sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up 1 black and 1 gold and sew through the next bead. Now let's pick up 1 gold bead. This is the last bead in row number 3, so we're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead, and we're also going to sew through the bead right below it. So sewing through 2 beads means we are stepping up. We've completed this row, and now we get to start row number 4. Let's start by picking up 2 black beads and sew through the next. Then 1 gold and sew through the up. 1 gold and sew through the up. 2 black beads and sew through the next. 1 black and sew through the up. 1 black and sew through the up. 2 black beads and sew through the next. 1 gold and sew through the up. And our last bead in this row is 1 black bead, skipping the down bead and sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start with 2 black beads and sew through the next. Then 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow and 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, and sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow, 1 yellow and 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, and 1 gold. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, and 1 gold. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 8. Let's start by adding 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow, 1 yellow, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 9. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 2 green beads, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 yellow, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 10. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, oops, 2 black beads, 1 green, 1 green, 1 red, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, and sew through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 11. Let's start with 2 green beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 red, 1 red, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 2 green beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and this completes the 12 rows of our triangle unit. If this is the first triangle that you've done with me, then I add connection beads on some of the sides, and I cap the corners with a bead to turn it into a point. So the reason why we add the connection beads is so that our units can connect together, and then we can create our entire ornament that way. So for this particular unit, we are not going to have any beads going down this side. But we are going to have connector beads on the bottom, and we are going to have them on this side. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cap this corner by adding 1 black bead, and it turns this corner into a little point. Now we're going to sew through 1 bead per row until we get down to this bead right here. The way I like to do it is, because it has a little dent in it, I like to turn my unit over, and then I just like to sew up the quadrant line. So just without picking up any beads, we're going to sew through each one of these beads. And this is also when I ask the question of the day. So the question of the day is, how long have you been beading? I am so curious. So I have been beading. I picked up this hobby about, I would say 15 years ago. I was a nail tech, I was a manicurist, and in my downtime, I would make little toe rings out of gold beads, these gold beads, right? And I'm not sure, I don't think that they were Delicas. I think they were maybe 11/0 rounds. But so I used to just sit and use stretchy string and make toe rings. It was kind of one of the things that I would do for marketing, and I would just add, I would invite people when they came in for pedicures or whatever. I would just say, would you like a toe ring? And I would also put them in little packages and with my card in them, and then I would have my kids go drop them off door to door. Now this was like 15 years ago, so it was kind of a normal thing to do that. I'm not sure if people drop cards off door to door anymore. But anyways, that's how I got into beading, and flash forward like 15 years later, and here I am loving my beading hobby and creating ornaments with the beads this time nowadays. So let me know down below in the comments, pause this video, and just tell me how long you've been beading. I am so curious. Alrighty, so we are now coming out of this bead, and so we're going to cap this corner with one black bead, and now we're going to add connection beads up this row. So let's start with one black, one black, one black, one red, one red, one black, one black, one black, one black, one black, and one black. Now we are at our third corner. Let's put one black bead to cap this corner and turn it into a point. And now we can start adding beads up this row, our connector beads. So let's start with one green, one black, one black, one black, one black, one black, one gold, one black, one black, one black, and one green. Now we're not going to pick up any more beads. We're going to just sew through this capped pointer bead, and then we're going to sew up 7 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it, and then we'll sew up the bead right next to that one. And apparently I caught the bead above that one too, and that's fine because we're going to sew up 2 beads. So I just sewed up 1 bead and now 2. Now I'm going to do that same type of zigzag again. We're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it. and up the bead right next to that one. And now I'm going to sew up 2 beads again. 1 and 2. The reason we do those zigzags is because it makes our beads that we just put on super secure so they won't get loose. And now we're ready to cut our thread. So taking the long nose pliers, let's hold our thread, and then with our scissors we're going to get as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead. Just cut the thread. And now we have completed our unit. It's called the AS, and you only need 1 of these for the project, so I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.